The ground shook like an earthquake had hit Seoul. Captain Lee Hoon was drinking his morning coffee when the windows of the emergency station rattled so hard he thought they would break. The sound that followed was unlike anything he had heard. Before, it was not thunder. It was not an explosion. It was something else entirely. "Captain, we have reports of a massive object crashing in the Bushan Mountains," his radio crackled. "All units are requested to respond immediately." Lee Han grabbed his gear and ran to his vehicle. As he drove toward the mountains, he could see a strange orange glow in the distance. Smoke rose high into the morning sky. Other emergency vehicles were already racing down the same road. When they reached the crash site, Lee Han stopped his car and stared. In the middle of what used to be a peaceful forest was a massive metal structure. It was at least 300 meters long and shaped like nothing humans had ever built. The metal was dark and smooth, with strange symbols carved into its surface. Parts of it were still glowing red-hot. "What is that thing?" asked Officer Nam Ki-woo, who had arrived just behind him. Lee Han shook his head. "I have no idea. But we need to check if anyone is alive in there." Dr. Park Soo-jin arrived 20 minutes later. She was a scientist who studied strange life forms, and the government had called her as soon as they realized this was not a normal aircraft. She looked at the crashed vessel and felt her heart racing. "This is not from Earth," she said quietly to Lee Han. "Look at the metal. Look at the design. This is something from space." The rescue teams worked carefully to find a way inside the vessel. The metal was incredibly strong, but there were cracks from the crash. They used special cutting tools to make the cracks bigger so they could enter. Inside the ship, everything was dark and quiet. The air smelled strange, like metal and something else they could not identify. Emergency lights flickered on and off. The corridors were much taller than what humans would need, at least 3 meters high. "Be careful," Lee Han whispered to his team. "We do not know what we will find." They moved slowly through the ship. In the first large room, they found them. Large creatures lying on the floor, not moving. Each one was about 2.5 meters tall, with dark scales covering their bodies. Their faces were long and reptilian, with sharp teeth visible even though their mouths were closed. Dr. Park knelt beside one of the creatures and checked for signs of life. There were none. "They are dead," she said sadly. "It looked like they died in the crash." The team continued searching the ship. They found more of the same creatures in different rooms. All of them were dead. The ship seemed to be some kind of transport vessel, carrying these beings to an unknown destination. Then they heard it. A small sound, like crying, coming from deeper in the ship. "Did you hear that?" asked Officer Nam. They all stopped and listened. The sound came again. It was definitely crying, but it sounded different from human crying. It was softer, more musical. Following the sound, they found a smaller room that looked different from the others. It was warmer, with softer lighting, and in the center of the room, curled up in what looked like a nest made of strange fabric, was a small creature. It was clearly the same species as the larger beings, but much smaller. About the size of a human child, maybe 6 years old. Scales were not dark like the adults, but shimmered with colors that changed in the light. Gold, green, and blue colors moved across its body like water. The creature looked up at them with large golden eyes. It was clearly afraid, but also curious. It made small sounds that almost sounded like words, but in a language none of them understood. "It is just a child," Dr. Park whispered. She moved slowly toward the creature, her hands open to show she meant no harm. "Hello, little one. We are here to help you." The creature watched her carefully. When she got close enough, she could see that it was breathing hard and shaking. It had been injured in the crash. There was a cut on its arm, and one of its wings looked damaged. "Wings," Dr. Park breathed. "It has wings. These creatures can fly." The small being tried to stand when it saw the humans, but it was too weak. It fell back down and made more of those crying sounds. "Need to get it medical attention," Dr. Park said. "It is hurt and scared." Lee Han nodded. "Can we move it safely?" Dr. Park looked at the creature more carefully. Despite its reptilian appearance, something about it seemed familiar. The way it looked at them, the way it responded to their voices, reminded her of a frightened child of any species. I think so, but we need to be very gentle. We need to let it know we are trying to help. Dr. Park spoke softly to the creature. As she slowly reached out her hand, to everyone's surprise, the small being reached out too. When their hands touched, Dr. Park felt something amazing. It was like a warm feeling spreading through her mind. Not words, but emotions. The creature was sharing its feelings with her. It was scared, alone, and hurt, but it was also hopeful. It seemed to understand that these strange beings were trying to help. Incredible, Dr. Park whispered. It is telepathic. It can share feelings. Working together, the team carefully lifted the creature and carried it out of the ship. As they walked toward the medical vehicles, Dr. Park noticed something important. The creature's scales were not just changing colors randomly. They were responding to emotions. When it felt safe in her arms, the scales showed warm golden colors. When it was scared, they turned darker. What should we call it? Asked Officer. Nam. As they placed the creature in the medical transport, Dr. Park looked at the small being, who was now holding onto her hand with surprising strength. Despite everything that had happened, despite being the only survivor of this terrible crash, the creature seemed to be bringing hope to everyone around it. Bomb, she said finally. We will call it Bomb. It means spring in Korean, new beginnings. As the medical transport drove away from the crash site, Dr. Park sat beside Bomb and wondered what this moment would mean for humanity. They had found proof that life existed beyond Earth, and that life had come to them in the form of a frightened, injured child who needed their help. Bomb looked up at her with those golden eyes and made a soft sound that almost sounded like thank you in a language that did not exist on Earth. Dr. Park smiled and squeezed the creature's hand gently. You are safe now, Bomb. We will take care of you. She had no idea that this moment would change the course of human history forever. 3 months had passed since the crash. Bomb had grown stronger under the care of Dr. Park. Sujin and her team at the secret research facility outside Seoul, the young dragon could now walk without help and had learned to communicate using simple Korean words mixed with telepathic emotions. Every morning, Bomb would wait by the window for Dr. Park to arrive. The creature's scales would shimmer with happy golden colors when she entered the room. Dr. Park had become like a mother to Bomb, and the feeling was mutual. Good morning, little one, Dr. Park would say each day, and Bomb would respond with a musical sound that meant good morning in the dragon language. Dr. Oh Minho, her research assistant, had been documenting everything about Bomb. The creature was incredibly intelligent and learned new things every day. Bomb could solve puzzles that would challenge human children much older. But more than intelligence, Bomb showed something that surprised everyone who met the young dragon. Kindness. When one of the lab workers, Ms. Lee Da-young, had hurt her hand, Bomb had immediately rushed to help. The creature had placed its small, clawed hands on the wound, and somehow the pain had gone away. Not just the pain, but the cut itself had healed faster than normal. This is not just an alien, Dr. Park had written in her report. This is something special, something that could change how we understand life in the universe. But on a cold Tuesday morning in December, everything changed. Admiral Kim Tae-ho was in his office at the South Korean Naval Command when the alarms started screaming. His aide, Lieutenant Park Jun-woo, ran into the room with a face as white as snow. Sir, you need to see this immediately, the lieutenant said, his voice shaking. Admiral Kim followed him to the command center. On the massive screen that usually showed weather reports and ship movements, there was something that made everyone in the room stop breathing. Ships, hundreds of them, floating in space above Earth like dark metal clouds. When did they arrive? Admiral Kim asked. 15 minutes ago, sir. They just appeared. No warning, no signals. They are positioned in orbit around the entire planet. The ships were enormous. Each one was at least 5 times larger than the crashed vessel they had. Found months ago, they were dark and angular, with the same strange symbols glowing along their surfaces. Have they tried to communicate? Admiral Kim asked. Yes, sir. They sent a message in perfect Korean, English, Chinese, and Russian, all at the same time. They want to talk to our leaders immediately. Within hours, representatives from every major nation had gathered in an emergency video conference. The alien message was simple and direct. It would send one representative to meet with Earth's leaders. The meeting would take place at the United Nations building in New York. Dr. Park received the call at 3 a.m. Her supervisor, Director Yoon Sang-ho, was on the line. Soo-jin, you need to come to the facility immediately. Bring all your research on the creature. What is happening? She asked, but she already knew it was about bomb. The aliens are here, and they want their property back. Dr. Park felt her heart sink. She had known this day might come, but she had hoped it would be different. She had hoped that if Bomb's people came, they would be happy to find their child safe and healthy. When the alien representative arrived at the United Nations, it was clear that happiness was not what they felt. The being was 3 meters tall, with dark scales that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes were cold and red, unlike Bomb's warm golden ones. When it spoke, its voice was like metal scraping against stone. I am Commander Thok, of the Vorthok Empire. You have something that belongs to us? The human representatives, led by Secretary General Maria Santos, tried to be diplomatic. We rescued a young member of your species from a crashed ship. The child has been cared for and is in good health. Child Commander Thok made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was cold and harsh. You misunderstand. The creature you found is not a child. It is a defective specimen that was being transported for disposal. The room fell silent. Dr. Park, who was watching the meeting from the research facility, felt sick to her stomach. Disposal, Secretary General Santos repeated. You are going to kill it. Not kill. Abandon. The creature carries genetic flaws that make it unsuitable for our society. It was to be left on a dead world where it could not contaminate other species with its weakness. What weakness? Asked President Chen Weiming of China. Commander Thak's red eyes seemed to glow brighter. It feels emotions. It seeks connection with other beings. It shows what you humans might call empathy. These are evolutionary mistakes that we bred out of our species thousands of years ago. But those are not weaknesses, protested Prime Minister Johnson of the United Kingdom. Those are strengths. You are wrong, Commander Thok said flatly. Emotions make beings weak. They cause poor decisions. They lead to failure. The Vorthok Empire became the most powerful force in this galaxy by eliminating such flaws from our nature. At the research facility, Dr. Park was holding Bomb's hand as they watched the meeting together. The young dragon's scales had turned dark, blue, the color of deep sadness. Bomb could understand enough of the conversation to know what was happening. They do not want me, Bomb said quietly in broken Korean. They never wanted me. Dr. Park pulled the creature closer. We want you, Bomb. We love you. Bomb's scales flickered with tiny points of golden light. Love? Your word for deep caring? Yes. My people have no word for this. On the screen, Commander Thok was continuing his explanation. The ship that crashed was carrying several defective specimens to be disposed of. This one was the worst of them. It not only feels emotions, but tries to make others feel them too. It is a disease that spreads. A disease? Secretary General Santos stood up, her voice angry. You call the ability to care for others a disease? Yes, and we have come to retrieve it before it can infect your species. You have 72 hours to return the creature to us. If you do not, we will take it by force. The screen showing. The alien ships in orbit appeared beside Commander Thak's image. Red lights were beginning to glow along their surfaces. And if we refuse? Asked President Williams of the United States. Commander Thak's answer was simple and terrifying. Then we will eliminate this planet and everything on it. We cannot allow emotional contamination to spread through the galaxy. The meeting ended with that threat hanging in the air. Earth's leaders looked at each other with fear and uncertainty. They had 72 hours to decide whether to save one alien child or risk the destruction of their entire world. Back at the research facility, Dr. Park held Bomb close as the young dragon cried tears that sparkled like diamonds. She made a decision that would change everything. Do not worry, little one. We will not let them take you. Humans do not abandon those we love. Bomb looked up at her with those golden eyes, now filled with hope again. Even if it means danger for all humans. Dr. Park smiled and touched the creature's face gently, especially then. That is what love means, Bomb. We protect those we care about, no matter the cost. Outside, the alien ships waited in the darkness of space, their weapons charging for war. The clock on the wall of the research facility showed 48 hours remaining. Dr. Park, Sujin, had not slept since the Vorthok ultimatum. She sat beside Bomb's bed, watching the young dragon sleep fitfully. Even in sleep, Bomb's scales flickered. With worried colors around the world, emergency meetings were happening in every capital city. The leaders of Earth had to make an impossible choice: save one alien child and risk the destruction of 8 billion humans, or sacrifice Bomb to save their world. Dr. Ominho burst into the room with a tablet in his hands. Sujin, you need to see this. The public is finding out about Bomb. Despite government efforts to keep everything secret, news of the alien child had leaked. Social media was exploding with photos and videos that someone had taken at the facility. The world was seeing Bomb for the first time. The images showed a small, beautiful creature with shimmering scales playing with human children who had visited the facility. In one video, Bomb was carefully helping a little girl who had fallen and scraped her knee. The dragon child's healing touch made the wound disappear, and then Bomb had hugged the girl gently. Look at the comments, Ominho said. Dr. Park scrolled through thousands of messages from people around the world. They were all saying the same thing. Protect Bomb. Do not let the aliens take this innocent child. The creatures who want to take this little one are monsters, wrote someone from Brazil. If we give up this child, we give up our humanity, posted a person from Germany. I would rather die fighting than live knowing we abandoned someone who needed our help, said a message. From Japan, Dr. Park felt tears in her eyes. The world was choosing love over fear, but not everyone agreed. In the government buildings, the debates were getting heated. We cannot risk 8 billion lives for one alien, argued Defense Secretary Kim Woo-jin during a video conference with world leaders. This is not just any alien, replied President Nakamura of Japan. This is a child who has shown us nothing but kindness. A child whose own species considers it defective, Kim Woo-jin shot back. Maybe they know something we do not. Dr. Choi Yeon-young, the psychologist who had been studying Bomb, stood up in the meeting room. I have spent 3 months observing this creature. I have never seen anything defective about empathy and compassion. If anything, Bomb represents what we should all strive to be. While the politicians argued, something amazing was happening at the research facility. Bomb was changing. The stress of the situation and the outpouring of love from humans around the world was triggering something in the young dragon's biology. Bomb's scales were becoming brighter, more vibrant. The creature was growing stronger, not weaker. Sergeant Kong Du-woon, the security chief who had initially been suspicious of Bomb, was now one of the dragon's strongest protectors. It had happened 2 weeks ago when Bomb had found an injured bird. Outside the facility, help bird, Bomb had said in simple Korean. Carrying the small creature to Sergeant Kong, Kong had expected to tell the alien that sometimes animals die, and that is natural. But when he saw the gentle way Bomb held the bird, the way the dragon's eyes filled with concern, something in his heart had changed. Bomb had placed tiny clawed hands on the bird's broken wing. A soft golden light had come from the dragon's scales, and the bird had healed completely. But it was not just the healing that had amazed Sergeant Kong. It was the pure joy on Bomb's face when the bird flew away safely. That is when I knew, Sergeant Kong told Dr. Park. This is not a creature to be feared. This is a creature to be treasured. Now, with 24 hours left, Sergeant Kong was preparing for the worst. He had quietly gathered a team of volunteers from the facility staff. If the government decided to hand Bomb over to the Vorthok, they would be ready to resist. Dr. Park was documenting everything she could about Bomb's new abilities. The dragon child was showing powers that none of the adult Vorthok had displayed. Bomb could now project feelings of peace and calm to anyone nearby. When the facility workers were stressed about the alien threat, Bomb would touch them gently, and their fear would fade. "This is incredible," Dr. Park wrote in her notes. Is not becoming more like the adult Vorthok. Bomb is becoming something entirely new, something better. The young dragon had also begun to understand the full situation. Bomb knew that the Vorthok fleet was waiting in space, ready to destroy Earth if the humans did not cooperate. "I do not want humans to die because of me," Bomb told Dr. Park in a voice that was becoming clearer every day. "Maybe I should go with them." "No," Dr. Park said firmly. "We do not abandon family. That is what you are now, Bomb. You are family." Bomb's scales shimmered with warm colors. Family. I like this word. Never had family before humans. Captain Li Han arrived at the facility with urgent news. The government is splitting. Some countries want to hand Bomb over. Others are saying we should fight, and some are suggesting a third option. "What third option?" Dr. Park asked. "Hide Bomb. Make the Vorthok think we have given up the child when we actually keep Bomb safe underground." Dr. Park looked at Bomb, who was listening carefully to every word. "What do you think, little one?" Bomb was quiet for a long moment. "I think my birth people are wrong about emotions. Emotions make beings stronger, not weaker. I feel love from humans, and it makes me want to protect them." That night, with 12 hours remaining, something extraordinary happened. Bomb's scales began to glow with a light that could be seen from outside the facility. The dragon child was sitting in the center of the room with hands pressed together like praying. "What are you doing?" Dr. Park asked. "I am sending message to my people in space," Bomb said. "I am telling them about love, about humans who chose to protect me instead of fear me." Dr. Ominho checked his instruments. "The energy readings are off the charts. Bomb is broadcasting something into space." The dragon child's voice became stronger, more mature. "I am showing them what I learned, that caring for others makes us powerful, that working together makes us strong, that love is not weakness." On the screens monitoring the Vorthok fleet, something strange was happening. Some of the alien ships were moving out of formation. Their weapons were powering down. "It is working," Captain Li Han said with amazement. "Some of them are listening." But Commander Thak's voice came through the communication system, angrier than before. "You have contaminated some of our crews with your emotional disease. This proves how dangerous the defective creature is. We will not wait for the deadline. We attack in 6 hours." Bomb stood up, no longer looking like a small child. The dragon's scales were now brilliant gold and silver, pulsing with inner light. "Then I will protect my human family." Dr. Park felt a mixture of pride and terror. "Bomb, what are you becoming?" The young dragon looked at her with eyes that now held ancient wisdom along with childlike love. "I am becoming what my people were, meant to be before they chose to stop feeling. I am becoming what happens when love is not feared, but embraced." Outside the facility, the night sky began to glow with the same golden light that surrounded Bomb. The dragon child was growing into something the universe had never seen before, a bridge between species, a being of pure compassion with the power to defend those it loved. The final battle was about to begin. The decision was made at 3 a.m., as 3 hours before the Vorthok attack. Dr. Park So-jin received the call from Director Yoon Sang-ho. His voice was tired but determined. "The government has made their choice. We are officially giving Bomb to the aliens to save Earth." Dr. Park felt her heart break. "And unofficially?" "Unofficially? You and your team have 30 minutes to disappear with Bomb. Captain Li Han is waiting outside with transportation. The military will pretend to search for you while actually helping you hide." Dr. Park looked at Bomb, who was glowing softly in the dim light of the facility. The dragon child had heard everything through their telepathic connection. "I understand," Bomb said quietly. "Humans are choosing to risk everything for me. I will not let them down." The escape was like something from a movie. Captain Li Han had prepared a convoy of vehicles that looked like normal supply trucks. Bomb was hidden in a special compartment that Dr. Ominho had designed to block the alien sensors. As they drove through the night toward the secret underground facility, Dr. Park held Bomb's hand. The dragon child's scales were now a steady golden color, showing calm determination. instead of fear. "Are you scared?" Dr. Park asked. "No," Baum replied. "I am excited. For the first time, I feel like I have a purpose. I am not just a mistake anymore. I am someone worth protecting." The underground facility was hidden beneath a mountain 50 kilometers from Seoul. It had been built years ago as an emergency shelter. But now it was serving a different purpose, was becoming a sanctuary for the most important being on Earth. Dr. Choi Yoon-young was already there, along with Sergeant Kong Do-woon and a dozen other volunteers. They had given up their normal lives to protect Baum, knowing they might never be able to return to the surface. "Welcome to your new home," Dr. Choi said to Baum as they entered the underground complex. The facility was amazing and had everything they needed to survive for months or even years. Living quarters, research labs, medical facilities, and even a garden where Baum could play and exercise. But the most important thing was the communication center that engineer, Yu Jaemin, had built. It was designed to let Baum broadcast messages to the Vorthok fleet while staying hidden. "The aliens think you are gone," Yu Jaemin explained to Baum. "They will search for you, but they will not find you here. This gives us time to try to change their minds." Above ground, the deception was working. The government had staged a fake handover ceremony using a hologram to make it look like Baum was being returned to the Vorthok. Commander Thok had accepted. The fake Baum and ordered his fleet to leave Earth's orbit, but some of the Vorthok ships stayed behind. These were the ones that had been affected by Baum's earlier message. Their crews were experiencing something their species had not felt in thousands of years. Emotions in the underground facility. Baum was learning to use the new abilities that were growing stronger every day. The Dragon Child could now communicate with any Vorthok in the solar system, sending thoughts and feelings directly into their minds. "I can feel them," Baum told Dr. Park. "The ones who stayed behind, they are confused and scared. They do not understand what is happening to them." "What is happening to them?" Dr. Park asked. "They are remembering how to feel. It hurts at first, like using muscles that have been sleeping for a long time. But then it becomes beautiful." Baum began sending messages to these confused Vorthok, teaching them about emotions the way humans had taught Baum about love. The Dragon Child shared memories of kindness, of laughter, the warm feeling of being cared for. One by one, the Vorthok who had stayed behind began to change. Their cold red eyes became warmer. Their harsh voices became softer. They started to understand what their species had lost when they chose to eliminate emotions. The first Vorthok to make contact with the underground facility was Sub-Commander Vec. His ship had been orbiting Earth for 2 weeks, and his crew was going through the emotional awakening that Baum had triggered. "We want to help," Vec said through the communication system. "We have learned that our leaders were wrong. Emotions do not make us weak. They make us complete." Dr. Park was amazed. "You're willing to go against your own empire." "For the young, one who showed us truth, yes. For the humans who chose love over fear, yes. We will fight our own kind if necessary." But they were not the only ones. Around the world, humans were organizing to protect Baum, even though most people did not know where the Dragon Child was hidden. They knew that somewhere, somehow, the young alien was still alive and needed their help. Protest marches filled the streets of major cities. Scientists shared their research about Baum's healing abilities. Artists created paintings and songs celebrating the Dragon Child, who had brought hope to humanity. The movement grew so large that governments could not ignore it. World leaders who had been afraid to stand up to the Vorthok began to find courage. In the support of their people, President Kim Min-jae of South Korea was the first to make a public statement. "We will not abandon Baum. This child represents the best of what we can be as a species. Protecting one innocent life means we must fight, then we will fight." In the underground facility, Baum was growing stronger and more confident every day. The Dragon Child was learning to read and write in Korean, studying human history and philosophy. "I want to understand why humans chose to help me," Baum told Dr. Choi during one of their sessions. "'Cause it was the right thing to do," Dr. Choi answered. "But it was also the dangerous thing to do. Why do humans choose right over safe?" Dr. Choi smiled. because we have learned that some things are more important than safety. Love is one of those things. Bomb's scales shimmered with understanding. My people forgot this. They chose safety over love, and it made them empty inside. As the weeks passed, more Vorthok ships began to defect from the main fleet. Commander, Thok realized that his solution was not working. The emotional contamination was spreading faster than ever. He sent a message to Earth that made everyone afraid. We know the defective creature still lives. We know it is spreading its disease. To our own kind, we will return with a larger fleet and burn this entire system to prevent further contamination. But Bomb was no longer the scared, injured child who had been found in the crashed ship. The dragon had become something new, something powerful. Something that could stand up to the might of the Vorthok Empire. Let them come, Bomb said, scales glowing with determined light. I am ready to show them what love can do. The final confrontation was approaching, and this time humanity would not stand alone. The Vorthok Warfleet returned to Earth's solar system like a storm of metal and death. Commander Thok had brought 500 ships this time, each one capable of destroying entire cities. The message was clear. Earth would not give up Bomb. Willingly, they would take the dragon child from the ashes of a dead world. In the underground facility, alarms were screaming. The sensors showed the massive fleet taking positions around Earth, but something was different this time. Nearly 50 of the Vorthok ships broke away from the main fleet and positioned themselves between Earth and the attackers. The defectors are protecting us, Captain Lee Haon reported. Sub-Commander Vec has convinced almost a tenth of their fleet to switch sides. Dr. Park Soo-jin watched the tactical display with growing fear. Even with the defected ships helping them, humanity was still outnumbered 10-1. The human military was brave, but their weapons were no match for Vorthok technology. We cannot win this fight with weapons, she said quietly. Bomb, who had been meditating in the center of the facility, opened golden eyes that now glowed with inner fire. You are right. This battle cannot be won with violence. It must be won with truth. Dragonchild stood up, and everyone in the room could feel the power radiating from the young being. Bomb was no longer small. Constant love and support from humans had triggered a transformation that was still continuing. I need to go to the surface, Bomb said. I need to face my people directly. That is too dangerous, Dr. Park protested. If they capture you, ... They will not capture me, Bomb interrupted, voice filled with quiet confidence. I am not the same creature they threw away. I am something they do not understand, something they fear. Engineer Yu Jaemin had been monitoring the dragon's energy. Output. The readings are incredible. Bomb is generating power levels that should be impossible for a creature that size. Because I am not just myself anymore, Bomb explained. I carry the love of every human who chose to protect me. I carry the awakening emotions of every Vorthok who remembered how to feel. I am connected to all of them, Dr. Choi Yun-young understood. First, you are becoming a bridge. A living connection between species. Yes, Bomb said, scales now shining like liquid gold. This is what my people were meant to be before they chose the path of coldness. We were meant to bring species together, not conquer them. The dragon child walked to the communication center and placed small hands on the control panel. Immediately, every screen in the facility lit up with the same golden light that surrounded Bomb. I am going to show them, Bomb said. I am going to broadcast the truth to every Vorthok in the fleet. They will see what they have become, and they will remember what they used to be. The broadcast that followed was unlike anything that had ever been transmitted in the history of the galaxy. Bomb did not just send words or images. The dragon child sent pure emotion, pure memory, pure truth. Every Vorthok in the attacking fleet suddenly experienced what their species had lost. They felt love for the first time in centuries. They felt compassion, joy, wonder, and hope. They remembered what it was like to care for others instead of just conquering them. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. On ship after ship, Vorthok. Warriors stopped preparing for battle and started crying tears they had not shed in generations. Commander Thok felt it too, but he fought against it with all his strength. No, he roared over the communication system. This is exactly the contamination we came to destroy. All ships fire on the planet immediately, but something amazing happened. Most of the ships did not fire. Crews were too overwhelmed by the return of their emotions to follow orders for destruction. Commander Thak's own ship began to fire. But the defected Vorthok vessels moved to block the attack. The battle that followed was brief but fierce. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light as former comrades fought each other in the darkness of space. On Earth, Bomb's power continued to grow. The Dragon Child was no longer just in the underground facility. Bomb's consciousness was expanding, reaching out to touch every living being in the solar system. I can feel them all, Bomb said, voice now echoing with harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. The humans who chose love. The Vorthok who remembered feeling. They are all part of me now. Dr. Park watched in awe as Bomb began to change physically. The Dragon Child was growing, becoming more majestic, more powerful. Wings that had been small and damaged were now large and strong. Scales that had been pretty were now magnificent. You are becoming what you were always meant to be, Dr. Park whispered. Yes, Bomb replied. I am becoming a dragon of unity, the last of my kind, but the first of a new kind. The transformation reached its peak when Bomb's form began to glow. So brightly that it could be seen through the mountain above the facility, the Dragon Child was becoming a being of pure light and love, but still maintaining the gentle personality that had made humans fall in love with the young creature. In space, the battle was turning. More and more Vorthok ships were joining the defectors as Bomb's emotional broadcast continued to awaken their sleeping hearts. Commander Thak found himself commanding a fleet that was rapidly shrinking as his own people turned against him. You fools, he screamed at his remaining loyal ships. You are destroying everything we built, everything we became. Sub-Commander Vex's voice came through the communication system, calm and sad. No, Commander, we are finally becoming what we should have been all along. But Commander Thak was not finished. If he could not destroy Earth with his fleet, he would do it himself. His flagship was equipped with a planet-killer weapon, powerful enough to crack a world in half. If I cannot have the defective creature, he snarled, then no one can. The weapon began to charge, building energy that would take 10 minutes to reach full power. 10 minutes before Earth would be destroyed. On the surface, Bomb felt the threat and made a decision that would change everything. The Dragon Child began to rise through the solid rock of the mountain, moving like a being of pure energy. Where are you going? Dr. Park called out. Bomb's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. To do what I was born to do? To save the people I love? The Dragon Child emerged from the mountain in a pillar of golden light that reached up to the stars. Bomb was now magnificent beyond description, a being of beauty and power that made everyone who saw it stop and stare in wonder. The final confrontation was about to begin. Bomb rose into the night sky like a star being born. The Dragon Child, now transformed into a magnificent being of light and love, flew toward the Vorthok fleet with wings that painted golden trails across the darkness. On Earth, every human who could see the sky stopped what they were doing and watched in wonder. The dragon they had chosen to protect was now protecting them in return. Dr. Park. Sujin stood on the mountain above the facility, tears streaming down her face. The small, injured creature she had found in the crashed ship had become something beyond her wildest dreams. Look what love did, she whispered to Captain Li Hun, who stood beside her. Look what happened when we chose to care instead of fear. In space, Commander Thak watched Bomb approaching his flagship. The dragon was no longer the small, weak creature he had planned to abandon. This was something powerful, something that made even his cold heart feel a strange stirring. Fire all weapons, he ordered his crew. Destroy it before it reaches us. Energy beams lanced out from the Vorthok flagship, each one powerful enough to destroy a city. But when they hit Bomb, something impossible happened. The dragon absorbed the energy and became brighter, more beautiful. Your weapons cannot hurt me, Bomb said, voice carrying across space itself. I am made of the love that humans showed me. I am built from the emotions your people rediscovered. You cannot destroy love with hate, Commander Thax, planet killer. Weapon was almost ready to fire. Then I will destroy the world that corrupted you. I will end this contamination once and for all. But Bomb was not alone. The defected Vorthok ships had formed a protective circle around the dragon, and their crews were adding their own emotional energy to Bomb's power. The Dragon Child was becoming a focal point for every being in the solar system who had chosen love over fear. You have forgotten something important, Bomb said to Commander Thok. You have forgotten what your people were like before they chose to stop feeling. The dragon raised one glowing hand and touched the flagship. Instantly, Commander. Thok was flooded with memories that had been buried for thousands of years. He saw his ancestors, the original Vorthok, who had been kind and gentle. He saw how they had helped other species instead of conquering them. He saw how they had loved their children instead of abandoning them. Oh, Commander Thok screamed. But the memories kept coming. He saw the moment when his people had decided that emotions were weakness. He saw how they had slowly become empty, cold, and cruel. He saw what they had lost, and for the first time in centuries, Commander Thok felt sadness. Not just sadness for himself, but sadness for his entire species. They had thrown away everything beautiful about themselves in the name of strength. We were wrong, he whispered, the words torn from his heart. We were so wrong.
The planked killer.
Weapon powered down as Commander Thak's hands shook on the controls. Around him, his crew was experiencing the same emotional awakening. They were remembering what it felt like to care about others. But the transformation was not complete. There were still hundreds of Vorthok ships in the fleet, and their crews were fighting against the return of their emotions. They had been trained for generations to believe that feelings were evil. Bomb spread magnificent wings and began to glow even brighter. I will show you all, the dragon said. I will show you what happens when love is not feared, but celebrated. The light that came from Bomb was like nothing anyone had ever seen. And it was warm and gentle, but also incredibly powerful.
Oh.
It reached every ship in the fleet, every being in the solar system, every heart that had been closed by fear. The Vorthok who had resisted the emotional awakening suddenly found themselves overwhelmed by feelings they had never experienced. They felt the joy of the humans who had protected Bomb. They felt the love that Dr. Park had shown to the injured dragon child. They felt the courage of the people who had chosen to risk everything for one small alien. One by one, the Vorthok ships stopped their attack. Their crews were too busy crying, too busy hugging each other, too busy remembering what it felt like to be alive with feeling. Commander Thok opened a communication channel to all ships. Stand down, he said, voice broken. With emotion, we have been living a lie. We've been dead inside for so long that we forgot what it meant to be alive. But the most amazing thing happened when Bomb's light reached Earth. Every human on the planet felt a warm feeling in their hearts. They felt connected to each other, to the Dragon Child, to the awakening aliens in space. For a moment, the entire world was united in love. Dr. Park felt it too. She felt Bomb's gratitude, not just to her, but to all of humanity. The Dragon Child had not forgotten that humans had chosen to protect someone they barely knew, simply because it was the right thing to do. Thank you, Bomb's voice whispered in every human mind. Thank you for teaching me that love is not weakness. Thank you for showing me what family means. The war was over, and not because one side had defeated the other, but because both sides had remembered what they were fighting for. They were fighting for the right to love, to care, to be more than just cold survivors. Commander Thak's flagship slowly approached Earth. But this time, as a friend instead of an enemy, we request permission to land, he said. We want to learn. From you, we want to remember how to feel. The landing was like the most beautiful celebration Earth had ever seen. Vorthok and humans met for the first time not as enemies, but as beings who had both chosen love over fear. Bomb descended from the sky, still glowing with inner light, but now small enough to embrace Dr. Park. The Dragon Child had grown in power, but had not lost the gentle heart that had made humans love the young creature. I want to stay here, Bomb said to Dr. Park. Earth is my home now. These people are my family. Dr. Park hugged the dragon child tightly. You will always be welcome here. You will always be loved here. But Bomb had a bigger purpose now. The dragon child had become a bridge between species, a living example of what could happen when different beings chose to care for each other instead of fear each other. I will help my people remember how to feel, Bomb said. And I will help humans understand that love is the most powerful force in the universe. In the months that followed, Earth became a sanctuary for Vorthok, who wanted to rediscover their emotions. Schools were built where dragons and humans learned together. Hospitals were established where Bomb's healing powers could help anyone who needed them. Dr. Park became the first human to adopt a dragon child officially. She and Bomb worked together to create a new kind of family, one that crossed species lines and proved that love had no boundaries. The research facility was turned into a museum, where people from both species could see where it all began. Crashed ship was preserved as a reminder that sometimes the most important discoveries come from the most unexpected places. But the most important change was in the hearts of both species. Humans learned that they were not alone in the universe, and that their capacity for love was something to be proud of, not hidden. The Vorthok learned that emotions were not weakness, but the source of true strength. Bomb grew up to become a teacher, a healer, and a bridge between worlds. The dragon child, who had once been abandoned as defective, became the most important being in the galaxy, not because of power or conquest, but because of love. And on quiet evenings, when the stars were bright and the world was peaceful, Bomb would sit with Dr. Park and remember the day when humanity chose to love instead of fear. You saved me, Bomb would say.
What?
No, Dr. Park would reply, smiling. You saved all of us. You showed us that love is not something to be afraid of. It is something to be celebrated. The dragon child would nod, scales shimmering with contentment. And that is the most important lesson in the universe. In the end, the aliens had abandoned the dragon heir because they feared what love could do. But humanity had chosen to embrace that love, and in doing so, they had changed the course of history itself. Love had conquered fear. The universe was a better place because of it.